Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, where today we're outside in the garden. Many of you may not know that I also have a G-scale garden railway, and that's probably because I don't think I featured it on the channel at all last year, mainly because my focus has been on the modular model railway more recently. This year though, I do want to give the garden railway a bit more attention, and I thought I'd do a fun tour video today for those of you who aren't so familiar with the layout. Now, it's not a particularly extensive garden railway, it is essentially just a large elongated oval with a station and run-round loop on either side. There actually used to be a fence separating the two sides of the layout, although that has recently been removed as it took a bit of a battering from the wind and it had pretty much already fallen apart. In fact, it's safe to say that the entire garden railway is looking a bit shabby and run down at the moment, which is mainly because it hasn't been used for a while. And that's partly because a lot of weeds and plants have grown up over the track, which is pretty unavoidable when it comes to having a garden railway, but there are other issues as well. For example, this winter was particularly harsh, and the border material I've used to separate the shingle and the ballast has not fared particularly well. Now, to be honest, this stuff wasn't great to begin with, especially considering that I wasn't really using it for its intended purpose, but a lot of it has now cracked and broken apart. That's not been helped either by having a clumsy dog that often likes to wander along the track, which I suspect is how some of the larger chunks have broken off. The railway has always been fairly basic, but over the last few years it's started to look a bit neglected as well, which is ironic because despite its untidy appearance, it's actually been running pretty well. So part of the reason I'm making this video is because over the course of the summer I want to make some improvements to the railway and its presentation. Then hopefully in a few months' time I'll get to share another update with you all where the railway looks a lot better. Before I get ahead of myself though, I first need to get the line up to scratch so I can run trains again, and that means clearing up all the weeds that have grown up over the winter and the spring. Now of course I'm not going to make you sit through hours of footage of me clearing up the track, so you can just enjoy these time lapses instead. Another thing that I didn't film as well was that I had to clean all the rails too, as I do use track-powered locos. The layout runs on DCC and the wiring is very simple, with literally just one feed running to the track from the house, although I would like to add in a few more in the future to improve reliability. But with the track looking a bit better now, I think we can get trains to run, so now it's time for me to give you a proper tour of the layout in its current state. Welcome to the Pevensey Light Railway, a short preserved narrow gauge line that runs along the coast in the southeast of England. The railway closed in the early 1930s, but over the past 2 decades, volunteers have been hard at work to restore as much of the railway as they can. The original line ran along the coast from the harbour just outside Eastbourne to the old fishing village of Pevensey Bay. A later extension was then built not long after, with the line turning inland towards the town and Pevensey Castle as the railway became more widely used for passenger trains. It is this short section from Pevensey Bay to Castle Halt which survives today, with the central operation of the railway being based at Pevensey Bay. Here the double platform station has been restored, with most trains departing from Platform 1 and Platform 2 mostly being used for locos to run round their trains. The original station building has been saved as well, although it is in need of some attention. The Preservation Society is hoping to carry out some restoration work to the building later this year, in the hope that it will become a more fitting base for the railway, as well as making it more welcoming for passengers. At the western end of the station are the carriage and wagon sidings that lead off from Platform 2. While currently this is the end of the line, this is where the original railway turned sharply to the left, initially crossing a viaduct before heading towards the harbour and its subsequent station. It is the eventual hope of the Preservation Society to extend the railway by relaying this section of track, effectively doubling the length of the line. Discussions are ongoing with the relevant landowners who do have some concerns, and so it seems unlikely that work on the extension will begin anytime soon. At the other end of the station is a small siding that leads off the main line and is currently being occupied by a short rake of slate wagons which have recently arrived at the railway. This siding originally had a setback which was installed in the early days of preservation. As can be seen in this archive footage, it was used for many years to store locos and future restoration projects. Last year though, the point that controlled the additional siding was found to be faulty, and so a decision was taken to remove it as it was very rarely used. Plans have been put forward recently to potentially site a new signal box here instead, with a ground frame inside to control the station points. Beyond this siding, the line then turns inland towards Pevensey and the terminus of the current line near to the medieval castle, which gives the station its name Castle Halt. A much smaller affair than the central Pevensey Bay station, Castle Halt is further into the countryside and has little more than a run-round loop. While the original platform survives, the station building does not, although the plan here is to construct a new wooden halt to make this station a bit more prominent in the future. When it comes to motive power, the Pevensey Light Railway is very much running on the bare minimum. The one resident steam engine currently in operation is 060 tank engine Cambrai. Originally a French loco, it was transported to the railway after leaving the Tallyclin Railway and is currently the main motive power for passenger trains. A small but powerful loco, it has proved itself more than capable of handling busy passenger trains throughout the summer. The railway also owns a second locomotive, a small 040 diesel numbered 3005. Originally intended as a backup for the steam locomotive, it was found not to be powerful enough to haul the two large bogie coaches, and so often only runs with one carriage. Nowadays, 3005 spends most of its time trundling up and down the line with freight and permanent way trains. While currently the railway does have limited motive power, the future is bright with two other steam engines currently undergoing major overhauls, in addition to plans for a new build loco on the horizon, with construction ready to begin very soon. This would give the railway a total of potentially 4 steam engines to choose from in the future, and opens up possibilities for more intensive timetables and running. The railway is also home to a variety of rolling stock too, with the main passenger stock being 2 coaches based on the design used at the Vale of Rydal. Due to initial poor running though, both coaches have had significant overhauls in the last few years to receive upgrades to their bogies, and the results have been outstanding. In the sidings at Pevensey Bay, a much smaller coach and brake van are currently stabled. Both are in need of attention to the wheels in order for them to be suitable for passenger traffic, but when they do re-enter service, it is hoped that they will form a smaller rake that can be hauled by some of the less powerful locos on the line. As mentioned earlier, a small batch of slate wagons have recently arrived at the railway too. No one is quite sure what the plan for these is yet, especially as they are not native to the area, but it is generally accepted that they will be useful for transporting small freight loads around the railway. The final 2 wagons have been here since the Preservation Society started rebuilding the line and were instrumental in getting trains running again. Still running to this day, they are by far some of the most reliable stock on the line, and aside from the passenger coaches, often see the most use, usually behind 3005. The Pevensey Light Railway is far from the most extensive narrow gauge railway in the UK, nor is it particularly well known either. But it is a charming little railway running along part of the Sunshine Coast and through the surrounding countryside. Like many preserved railways, it has certainly been a long battle to get this far, with many obstacles needing to be overcome at every step. While in the past it has adopted a certain down-at-heel charm, now that the railway is running smoothly, the society is able to turn its attention towards making improvements. Starting small is the natural first step, with tidying up the two stations to make them more presentable high on the list. But a recent renewal of enthusiasm in the railway from volunteers has seen many new projects being undertaken, with significant progress expected to take place over the rest of the year. With new locos and rolling stock hoped to be in service soon, perhaps it won't be too long before we see multiple trains running on the line, or even a gala day. The Pevensey Light Railway may be small, but with a variety of new opportunities on the horizon, it's certainly ready to make its mark.